The grid method has been very life-changing for my teachers because it allows students to work at their own pace and it makes sure that we're covering all the DOK levels because a lot of our standards are at level 2 and 3. However, a lot of my teachers were focusing at level 1, the recall, when we really needed to move them towards the level 2 and 3. So there is a document that you're going to want to first make a copy of. It's tracking my success. So in this document, students will type their name, and then this is where they start to change colors. So when I first go over this with students, I have them type in their name. The teachers could type in their name. That is up to you. Then we practice changing colors just to make sure that students understand what they're doing. I also remind them they must stay in their lane. So they must stay in row 4 if that is the row that their name is in. So for example, I then have them go to the paint bucket and they start changing the colors to green. Change it to blue. Then they're going to change it to orange. So they just practice, and then we also talk about resetting in case they did make an error and talk about the undo button. Also, I don't care if they use different shades of blue. That is up to you as a teacher. So I let them pick any shade of blue just because some students like to have more choice. And then we have multiple classes. So at the bottom, I have class 1, class 2, and class 3. And then I keep an original just in case something gets erased or something happens. And then I can just copy and paste these 3 rows if I need to. So this is what our tracking sheet will look like. Once all students' names are in, I normally make the font bigger. So when I'm projecting this on the board, I can see every student's name and I can go to the student if they have an orange or if I needed to just check in on their green to make sure that they are mastering and they're doing a really good job. It just helps me look real quick to see where every student is at rather than looking at every single screen. I can just look at the board. So we practice this all together. This is what a sample grid looks like. I got this from Tiffany Ott, and she's with the Teach Better team. She did a PD at OETC, and it was amazing. So if you ever get the chance to go to a Teach Better team PD, I suggest that you do. We have level 1. You're going to write the targets on each of the different levels. So level 1 is DOK1, and it focuses on learning vocabulary first for this activity. So the kids are first going to make their A1 box blue. When they finish the Quizlet, they're going to change it to green. I'm also starting to create a template website for my teachers to help them focus on the different levels of DOK. And so they're going to write the topic, any notes, the standard, and then they have level 1. My teachers wanted level 1 to be at the top rather than at the bottom. That is just your choice. So they preferred that. So level 1 could be like vocabulary, I think is a really good start so that students know what the vocab words are. But there's also different sentence stems that you could use with DOK1 to help you get thinking. So like students could identify something on a map or if it's science on a diagram. There are some activities here like vocabulary. Students could take notes. They could label maps and diagrams. They could describe different features. They could do basic calculations, and it's just the recall. Just getting the students that basic knowledge that they're going to need for the rest of the activities when it gets harder. 1B is an Edpuzzle video for this activity. So I want the students to watch an Edpuzzle video, take notes. It was really cool to see our first grid. I didn't suggest to students to take notes, and they just got out notes and started taking them. And then we just suggested, I'm not going to force you to take notes, but it's probably a good idea. So getting students in that taking notes, I did a video reflection so they can just quickly, what was that video about? And write one sentence real quick what the top message in that video was. And again, on here, it is, it could be videos, it could be anything from the DOK level 1 list. Then we have a formative check. For this activity, I just did a quick Google form. The reason I think you should use technology is because students will get that immediate feedback. You don't need to grade it. It might take another minute for you to grade, but if you've got 24 students, that's 24 minutes. So if you can, get the computer to grade it. So like using Kahoot, quizzes, Google Forms is a really good one. Google Sheets, you can make it so it can show right or wrong. Using those websites that will let you have your students get immediate feedback is super important. Students after this one must show me their score, and then I conference with them over the different questions. So on this inference one, it just has quick passages, and then the students have to decide what's the inference based on that text structure or the text evidence. So again, they read this one's just a sentence. They have to decide what their answer is going to be. I conference with the students and we talk about what's good and what's bad. And if I need my students, I could have them do another activity if I wanted to. I could have them go through the vocabulary again if they're struggling with the vocabulary, or watch the video again, depending on how they do on this activity. They also have to make their box in 1C orange. And this means right here I have to get a teacher check. Okay, and again, here's some ideas. I love having that formative check right here just because to make sure that they're understanding the basic information. So some ideas is Google Forms, GoFormative, Elluminate, Quizzes, Edulastic, some of those websites that will help kids get that basic information. We added an extra box just in case we needed it. But normally, my teachers so far have only been having 3 different activities in the DOK1 area. The next level is apply and demonstrate. So this is level 2. This is where the students get to start to create. So in here, students get to see an infographic real quick of inferences, and then they're going to make their own. So they're going to draw a picture explaining what an inference is. So again, they're going to make their box blue. They get started. They can choose. Do they want to make it digital? Do they want to make it on paper? The students get to choose what platform they want to use. They could use Adobe Spark. They could use Canva. They could use Google Slides, Google Draw. That is up to them. And they're using their notes from DOK1 to organize that information to explain it to someone that might not understand what an inference is. Then in this box, they're gonna meet with a friend. So I always tell students, look for someone that's in that level 2 area for you to conference with. You're not gonna check with someone with level 1. So they're gonna tell them a strength and an improvement that they could make, and they're gonna type that in their box. Then they're gonna make it orange so the teacher can give a check. And again, you're gonna have students all over. There's some students that are gonna be at level 2 and some students that are still on Quizlet, and that is okay. And it allows you, this student probably doesn't need you as much because they're able to take their notes and start creating, where this student might need you to come work with them on the vocab and help them with those clues and those keywords that they need to know. So it's really nice and a good idea to kind of spread out your activities so that you can help those students that are struggling and so you can help those students that are excelling. So here would be like the level 2. They're going to try it out themselves. And then here's some ideas like stimulation, summarizing major connects, solve routine multi-step problems. They're looking over data and they're doing experiments. So I could have put like an experiment here. There's so much that you could have done in here. And then I think the peer review is so important for students. You could also make this differentiated. So in this box, I could have added this option, or you could do this option with the infographic. I let the kids choose. You can use paper, or you can do it digital. Giving the kids option is super important in this box. Instead of an infographic, we could have also added another choice like a video. So students creating a screencast of what they've learned. Or they could have made a skit of inferences and explaining some type of thing like that. So really having the students have choice in this box is so important. Then we're on to level 3. So level 3 is DOK3. And on here, some of the ideas are the students kind of get to be the teacher. So again, here's the sentence stems. It's so summative assessment, the support ideas with the evidence, identifying and researching questions, comparing and contrast. Comparing and contrast is huge in this area. So on this one, we had students make errors. So they have to read this story. The student 1 thought the inference was a storm. The student 2 thought it was time for bed. And student 3 thought it was winter. Student has to read this and determine which student is the correct student and which students are wrong, and explain why using text evidence. We also have 360s here to kind of help students see what there's lightning in the distance, just to help them visualize that story that's going on. Then there's another story, and then this round, they're going to state their inference and highlight text evidence. They're going to get feedback from a friend. Then again, improve their feedback based on this, and then get feedback again, and then they're going to do it one more time and get feedback again to make their response even better. I like to print this one so there's a little bit of paper for students. Once they finish this worksheet, they are ready for the summative assessment. So for this summative assessment, we are using an iReady from the iReady toolbox. And the students are going to read an article and answer the questions. They will get a teacher check-in, and the teacher will conference with the student on how they did. I really like the iReady because it has multiple different articles for students. So if a student did well, they could keep moving on. If they needed to retry, they could do another story after some additional practice. Okay. And again, that would be right here. So I like to do kind of compare and contrast activity. That could be with like Google Slides, an infographic, a screencast. The would you rather is a really fun idea too. There's tons of different ideas in the would you rather, and there's also another blog post on this. But the students get to choose, am I going to create a screencast or create an infographic? And you can have them just compare and contrast what they're learning and making those connections. The fourth level, they're going to construct and design. So these are kind of coming up with their own ideas. So for this activity, we did a which one does not belong. So students, I did an example. There was this passage that I wrote up, and then I found different images. And the students have to decide based on this story, what picture does not belong with this story. And then they have to explain. So picture C does not belong. And it's just because it talked about the person was very angry. And so C is more peaceful. So the students had to explain that in their response. I did it with a video too. So students would just create a story or find a video, explain the different inferences, and then other students would explain what image does not belong with their inference. So some ideas for level 4, there's the questions. So some ideas for DOK4 is projects, analyzing information from multiple sources, design and illustrate projects, and then project-based learning. So getting the students to create more. And then the 5th level is more for that student exploration. So students get to create. They can pick any platform to create, and they get to create like a video or a website or something that they can think of. They could create a meme, a comic to explain inferences in this case. I really hope you enjoy the grid method as much as we do. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks.